Hey, we got a good episode this week. James and I sat down and just caught up about what we've been up to for the past couple of months. James has been getting settled in Pennsylvania. I'm launching a new chair. We talked a lot about AI and just design in today's world. I think you all will enjoy it. I'm also excited because this week we have a new sponsor, and I think you all really enjoy this sponsor. It is Moment. Moment is a premium keyshot asset marketplace designed by designers for designers. And they have sent me some amazing assets, and I've used it in my work, to render out the super chair and some scenes, and just to get their nice interior scenes. It's great for kind of in situ renders if you want to have a product in an environment. They also have a bunch of stand-in products like the new Apple 2020 collection. There's some awesome materials, and I love it. I mean, you know me, I just want to design and then hop in there, get a quick render done. I don't want to do a ton of work to get something looking nice, so it's great to just have everything set up. Highly recommend it. And they are offering Minor Details listeners 20% off. Only for a month, though. So you have 1 month from today, or when this episode's released, to get that discount. So 20% off anything in the store with the promo code Minor Details, all caps, all one word. And their website is moment, moment.co.uk. We'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. And yeah, thank you again to the Moment team for sponsoring this episode. Also, you all know the deal. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars on Spotify, a thumbs up on YouTube, specifically Spotify, because I think they just released their star system, last year, and, we're trying to get those numbers up. So that'll really help us out. Also, if you have a question, feel free to email us, mydetailspodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, let's hear that amazing intro by KYOSHY the Kid. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
And we're 2 designers in the big city.
Sweating the small stuff.
It's almost summertime, man.
Oh, man. I was biking around. So to preface all this, I have moved to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, congrats.
In case, you guys have missed us.
Yeah, it's been a couple months.
Yeah, it has.
You've been busy.
And so I decided to take the train up, got off the train. It was bizarre because it was almost my exact experience of commuting to Peloton, because Peloton is in Hudson Yards. So getting out of Penn Station, pretty much identical to what my commute was.
Right, you're going to work. You start to go to Peloton.
I was just oh no.
The door's locked. It's a Saturday.
But got on the bike and took it all the way down.
Right.
They tore up.
Did you miss it? Did you miss the bike?
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it a lot, except for the lack of shock absorption. I mean, I literally ripped my taint in half on the way down, because my usual route through to Brooklyn, they ripped up the street, and I didn't know another way to go, and I was just all through Manhattan. Just man, it was rough.
Yeah,
it was a rough one, but I love those bikes. I need to look into maybe an e-bike.
It's cool that you're close enough. It's only 2-hour train ride or something?
Yeah, it's not too bad. There's actually a town nearby to where we live. By the way, we're signing for a house very soon.
Congrats. Okay.
It's very exciting. The market is not improved at all.
No.
It's still insane.
Yeah, I bet.
The first house that we bid on had 25 other offers.
Wow.
25.
Okay.
And went for way over asking. It was insane. So obviously we didn't get that house, but it was it was a little bit stressful at times, but
I mean, I feel like even if in a good market, it's got to be stressful buying a house.
But talking to our parents, just not having had that experience at all, like having the experience of like, this house has been on the market for 2 years, and let's go look at it.
And it's the price of 3 candy bars,
But it's wild because people are like, maybe, some of our younger listeners aren't like thinking about the housing market, but like people are waiving all sorts of things that protect you as a buyer in this whole process. And like, so people are like waiving inspection, which like as a buyer, like that's something that protects you,
right?
To like have somebody come in, inspect the home and tell you like if there's like structural issues,
right.
if there's like mold, if any of that stuff.
So you're saying that some of the offers are like, hey, we'll give you 5% over your offer, and we won't even call an inspector.
Yeah.
You can just give it to us as is.
Yeah. And then they're getting inspectors after the fact to like find out what's going on with the house. Like that's a huge risk. We were fortunate that our offer got accepted with an inspection.
Okay.
But that being said, like when, in a normal transaction, you might be like, hey, these couple things are, need some fixing.
Right.
Can you do that? And
right.
the sellers are like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They're like, no. But at least we knew that we weren't going to like move into some place that was going to fall to the ground next week, so.
Yeah, that's an important thing. Definitely you should have some structural inspection.
Yeah.
If there's like a leak in the ceiling, like maybe that's okay for you to fix.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I was able to.
Do you have like a yard? Like what's the vibe like?
Yard.
Is it a classic house? Just like a little.
It's a classic house.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a modern, penthouse suite with the pool.
We did discover that there's like, and I guess I kind of knew this, but there's a lot of mid-century homes around where I grew up.
Okay.
That I, was not aware of before my design education. I was never really into like architecture necessarily. So kind of discovered that, but no, we did look at some mid-century places, but there's some weird layouts going on. Like we looked at this one place where the entrance to the house was in the back of the house.
Interesting.
And the first floor was the floors were like reversed. So you had kitchen, living, everything on the top floor, as well as the master bedroom. And then you had bedrooms below on like the second floor, but really the first floor.
Okay. And
we ended up, cause like we want to be on the same floor as the kids,
right.
It's like you don't want to be separated from them when they're so young.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, we just got kind of a normal, it's not anything crazy.
Okay.
But we have plans of like how to make it our own.
Nice. That's
and
awesome, man.
Probably be there for a while if we can.
Yeah. And obviously you've started your new job too.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, I could not be happier with it.
It's great.
It is. It's like, and I'm not just saying that because my father sometimes listens to the podcast. Like, it legitimately is just like, I didn't want to go into too much detail about like what was going on at Peloton, and I, still won't. It just like, obviously you can kind of like read the headlines of what happened at that company and kind of understand like how it might have been like to be there during all that. And it was tough.
Yeah.
Like it was, and
I mean, I think a lot of companies are still kind of going through the economic struggle.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be around for a bit, I feel like we're definitely kind of in a, recession or downturn.
So, I mean, it was just like it was very draining. But I was still like, I still really loved my team there and everything, but it was getting really draining. And since working at my dad's company, I mean, obviously like I have, a bit more authority, a bit more decision-making ability.
What's your title now?
Director of design. And it's just like, the first week it's like, hey, doing ID work, also designing a t-shirt for a company outing, and also like
nice,
working on a trade show booth. And it's like, this is fun. Like
Yeah.
I literally go in and I have something to do all day long, which is like great.
Yeah, because the opposite always is the worst. You think it's better to like, not be busy, but
Yeah.
usually when it's like slow, it's so painful to just sit around and wait for the clock to go by.
Yeah. And they've built like a really great team there, and it's just like there's really no ego there.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like you can encounter ego working in New York, you know?
I think, well, I want to hear what you think about this, but obviously you're doing rotomolding and you have your factory. It's the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Do you think it's less ego driven because it's like less like branded or consumer facing? It's not like there's, it's not like Peloton where everyone knows what Peloton is. It's like this thing that no one really knows about, but you have an amazing opportunity to actually, go from, 10% design to like 95% design. Whereas, and I feel like we've talked about this, where, at some larger companies like Apple or something, you're really going from like 98% great design to 99% great design.
Yeah.
And so like the impact is not as much, but you do have a lot more, brand recognition, or there's a lot more,
right?
Maybe ego. I think that's what. Kind of getting at.
Well, I just feel like, I mean, it might be hard for me to articulate it at this point because I'm still like kind of observing it, but I feel like everybody in New York, for better or for worse, is maybe like trying to like make their mark on the world sort of thing. And it, some of it is with good intention, but like when it comes to a place like my dad's company, it just feels like it feels even more we're all in this together kind of a vibe, because like I don't feel like anybody is trying to overstep their job title to like to try and meddle in other areas. It's just like it feels very it feels collaborative in a very like positive way. It doesn't feel like people are trying to jam in their idea because they are seeing a grander view of like, how am I leaving my mark on the world, and whatever. It feels, I don't know, that's the best that I can do right now.
No, it's interesting. I think it's also maybe because it's, I don't know what a good way to phrase it, but I think a lot of companies in New York are startups, or the whole goal of the company is to make the mark.
Right.
And then that obviously attracts people that personally want to make their mark in the world. Whereas, a factory or a manufacturing company that has, I don't want to say commodity. I mean, I think, you're going to do some amazing designs, and you have done some amazing designs, and I think you'll, build some strong brands. But, stuff like the road barriers, I would say that's commodity. There's no one's, trying to make their mark with a road barrier. Although that'd be kind of cool to do.
Right. That's how it sort of feels like there feels like incredible opportunity for design, but at the same time, like in my first year there, or year or two, like, and maybe even beyond this, probably, I feel like I'm very much in sort of like a supporting, observing, helping role,
right?
Where I'm not trying to dictate very much right now, because like the company has been doing very well without me, I just like I want to be a team player, and I want to just like bring in the expertise that I've gained, and just like, I was trying to explain this to, I don't know if I've talked about this on the pod, but I was trying to explain this, I think, to an engineer at Peloton. Was just like, one of the functions of design is to showcase the already beautiful aspect of like all the engineering and the functionality before anybody has a chance to interact with it in a way. Like, especially with physical product, it's like, if you see something like Peloton equipment on a website, all you're seeing is the design. You're seeing the engineering as well, but mostly what you're seeing is the design, and you're seeing it before you have any chance to interact with it. And so what I was trying to say was like, design has a function of like illuminating the beauty of the engineering before anybody has a chance to interact with it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so like right now, that's kind of how I am trying to view it, is like this company is already doing well without me, but like, how can I make it shine brighter than it is already? And have people from the outside understand how great it is on the inside.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. Are you all going to build a bigger team, or is it just going to be you for a while? Or
I think it's going to be just me for a while. And we'll see how that's me like observing and understanding like what the business needs first before I'm like, and we need this designer and this, and so like, I can't imagine that I'm going to be like hiring anybody anytime soon, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's great, man.
Yeah. So I feel like that very much sums up what's been going on in my life.
Got a lot of big things move around.
Yeah.
So.
What about you, man? Dude, huge things.
Yeah, I've been doing the design thing.
To put it mildly.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest news is, I've been prepping for Milan because I am launching a chair there.
Yeah.
With an amazing Italian brand, Damiano Altini. And yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of interested in the story of it, so I thought I'd kind of go into it. We've ended up calling it the Super Chair, so we can talk about the name too. But the chair started, I guess, last year. I want to say maybe October or something, where I just had this. I think I was kind of going off this idea of, wouldn't it be cool to design a chair that you could recognize with a black and white silhouette? Because I think that's like a fun constraint, and it feels like a lot of iconic chairs, kind of playing into the name of an icon, right? It's like an icon is super recognizable, so recognizable that it's, a black and white, you can be seen through a black and white silhouette. I think I even made a tweet about it where it was like, make designs that are like the Pokemon. Who's that Pokemon? Did you ever watch? You know what I'm talking about?
I know.
Yeah. It's like, who's that Pokemon? And it's just like the silhouette. I want to do a whole collection of what's that chair, And so I started sketching, and I had this idea of this diagonal line and then kind of swooshing out the seat and then swooshing back the back foot. And it just felt very kind of graphic. And of course, my process, the next thing I do, jump into VR and pump it out. And I'd posted it online, and of course a lot of people thought it was a pretty wild and interesting chair. And I think I had worked and contacted a few people about getting a prototype made. I think originally I wanted to do it out of fiberglass, at least get something made. That would have been pretty simple to make, I think, as opposed to plastic. And then I got contacted by an Italian company, and they were like, "Hey, Damiano wants to meet with you." And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll meet. And so it's it's a smaller brand. They've done a lot of like shelving and vanity systems. And so I met with Damiano in New York City. And you never know where these conversations go. I think a lot of times people will just want to meet and chat and talk about design. And we sat down and started chatting, and Damiano was like, all right, I want to make the chair, here's my offer.
Oh, wow.
Straight up at dinner. And I was, very, very flattered. And I was like, yeah, we'll discuss a little bit later. I don't want to make a decision right now in the first 5 minutes, but yeah, the funny thing is I think they had seen it on LinkedIn actually.
Oh.
As opposed to Instagram. So the art director who has his own studio, Antonio, he was scrolling LinkedIn one day and saw the chair and then connected it with Damiano. And I was thinking about this because I think LinkedIn is I think it's the most highest return on investment in terms of posting, but it's also like the cringiest platform. Like every time I go on LinkedIn, it's someone, with a blog post about like, I got promoted and this is how you can get promoted too, all that like thought leader stuff. But I think it's actually pretty great at getting your work seen by a lot of I don't know, decision makers in the industry, right? And there's certainly decision makers on Instagram too, but I think we are kind of approaching this point where all the social media platforms are taking the same type of content. So now it's much easier to kind of repost things and just post it on all the platforms. Right. Which is something that's kind of been emerging. Obviously, it used to be you posted words on Twitter and you posted images on Instagram and you posted videos on TikTok. And now I think we're all kind of posting everything everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they all seem to be now sort of competing for this, like,
right, for the same attention.
Yeah, for this, yeah.
And it's all just kind of going to this,
Dude,
short form video.
The like the amount of like threads on Twitter now is getting like exhausting. It's like I'm not enjoying Twitter as much as I used to.
Well, they got the new long form tweets now. You can just put it all in one tweet.
I know, and I feel like we had this conversation before about like, especially with UX UI, it's like, why can't you guys just be happy with and refine that thing that you do that's so good? And I know that a lot of it is in an attempt to like make Twitter more profitable.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like Craigslist. It's like, it's perfect.
Oh, yeah. And just don't change it.
Yeah, don't change it. Blue underlined words or whatever. Like that page has not changed at all. But anyway, that's like a total aside.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on Twitter a lot ever since, I guess, the crypto thing.
It's just getting kind of overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's a much more lively place now.
Yeah. Well, it's like, did you think you could start a whole business with just Chat GPT and Midjourney? Well, I'm going to show you how.
I think the trick with Twitter is you got to like be very careful who you follow.
Yeah.
Because you also see the retweets. So it's like, you just got to be like really selective.
Anyway, let's get back to the chair. Let's get back to the physical world.
Yeah, the super chair. So I met with Damiano. We had a great dinner. And we worked out the deal. And his deal was, I want this for Milan. And we had met, I think, in November, which Milan is 6 months away.
Yeah.
To make an injection molded chair. And I was like, this is obviously a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to do twice in a lifetime opportunity, but it's a very rare opportunity to do a monoblock injection molded plastic chair. Many companies will make an upholstered chair where you can carve up wood, but to spend the investment, $250,000, $500,000 just to start getting a physical product out is a huge thing. Like that's not something you blink an eye at and people throw money at, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a huge, name designer, whether it's, Jasper Morrison or Burlek, but like, these, even the big name designers, like that's not, it's a very strategic thing.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm super excited for it. And, I the timeline is very short and I went in knowing that. And yeah, I mean, we moved fast. It was, I think it was, we had to make some changes, obviously. The other thing that really attracted me to the Damiano Latini is he wanted to make it in Italy as well. Obviously, you can make it for much cheaper in China, but the company they wanted to make it with was the same company that does like the cartel stuff and a lot of like
the drug cartel.
No, cartel of the furniture.
I'm kidding. It's a low hanging fruit there.
I never even
cartel with a K.
I never even connected those dots.
There's drugs in every one of those chairs.
Yeah. So they just do really high quality work. So I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do this. Let's do it. And we worked really fast, and the engineering team did the updated CAD. I just sent over my Gravity Sketch file. Well, I changed it to Step, but I sent over like the thing I had like moved with my hands,
Yeah.
Which is amazing in and of itself, right? Like this is my.
Well, for some manufacturers, like that's even more than they get sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they would get a sketch or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had to do some analysis on structural aspect of it because it's like, my design wasn't even like I didn't test it from a physical standpoint.
Sure.
And I obviously knew it would have to have some changes structurally. So we did kind of increase the seat, I want to say webbing, where it kind of has a much more of an arc that kind of comes up from the front and then down through the side.
Yeah.
And then we curved the back a little bit. I had this like idea that I wanted it to be a single plane, a single flat surface, and then you pull it out all the features of it.
Yeah.
And obviously I did a 3D print of a full scale test mock-up just to sit in it. Having a straight back chair is not comfortable. I think I know that, and my whole concept with the DIY Yield collection was to make the back curved.
Yeah.
So I know that having a straight back chair is not comfortable.
Well, it wasn't that it was straight backed. It did eventually get to a straight back, but you had carved out
for the seat,
for the seating area.
Yeah.
But then it came straight back.
Yeah, it was
at a point.
And it's not like it's uncomfortable. There are chairs that have flat backs that exists.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to make a huge investment like this,
sure,
you want to make a comfortable chair.
Yep.
And of course, I tried to make comfortable chairs as a designer. And so we curved it. And then we also curved the bottom too, so that, your heels wouldn't hit the bottom lip. And it also kind of flows a little nicer. So now you have this, perfectly curved surface that goes down, and then you pull the features out of that. And yeah, they kind of adjusted a few of the other details. I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me, was just kind of letting it go and letting them execute. There's only so much time to make adjustments, and with that crazy timeline, it's like I just have to trust that they'll do the right thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like last month, see the tooling getting made.
Yeah.
And then, I think last week I saw the photos of the physical, chairs, and it's insane to see them. And I'm really pleased with how they turned out. It was such a short timeline that, it's just like I think it happens with every design. It's like your baby goes out there and you kind of want to keep tweaking it. Right?
Yeah.
But I think the final result is awesome, and we are showing it in Milan. So,
dude, it's crazy. So wasn't not last year, but was it the year before? Was it your first time at Milan?
No, I think that was my second. So I went 1 year before. I've been before the pandemic, and then I went the first one after the pandemic started.
Okay.
Or, ended or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, I missed last year's, but this year I'm going.
Obviously.
Yeah, I've decided that it's an every year trip for me, at least at this point in my career.
Yeah.
Especially now that I've pivoted the studio to focus on furniture, lighting, houseware.
Yeah. Are you going to be doing any like events with the company there, or?
There is some interviews and stuff that I have to speak at. I think it'll be like filmed. I think it's probably for some promotion or some news stuff. I don't think I'm doing any talks or anything like that.
Okay. Any names of like who's interviewing you? Do you know?
Yeah. It's just like a design blog. It's not like it's a great blog. I've had connections with them before. I think they've posted my work before.
Nice.
And we did a ton of colors too. We did 9 colors.
Yeah.
8 colors.
Yeah.
And I think we're still going to decide when I get there. We're going to talk more about colors.
Yeah.
I guess by the time you're hearing this, you'll probably see more photos of it. But the other thing that's really interesting about the chair is we have an interesting finish on it. It's this kind of silky satin finish that the factory has I think they have a patent on it or something. They have some sort of proprietary thing on it. It's injection molded, and then they spray it with some sort of soft touch kind of paint. I don't know. I don't think I want to call it a paint, but it's some sort of coating. And it's really beautiful. And it's, I think you could probably see the finish on like Stark's Master's chair, or like the AI chair that he did. I think a lot of the Stark stuff has the same finish. So I'm excited to see that. I haven't seen the real one in person yet, so it'll be really cool. And the other thing that I'm really kind of proud of and excited about is that when we were talking about the structural aspect of the chair, I didn't really want to have the seat increase that webbing on the seat. I wanted to just like make a rim around the seat, the edge, kind of thicken up the edge to get that structural aspect. And they pushed to keep the edge thin, and I think that was the right choice in the end, because the seat is 6 millimeters thick, which is crazy. And it just comes out to this flat edge. It's not like it curves. I think a lot of people like to point at like the Panton or some other plastic chairs, and they all have that kind of edge where it kind of curves back to give it more structure. But we kept it flat, just that single straight line like I had sketched it.
That's cool.
So proud of that. And then the Italian factories are really great. I think a lot of them have recycled materials and stuff. Ours is recycled polypropylene.
Nice.
And excited for it. I don't know. It's a big deal, and I'm really happy about it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like this is, I could not be happier for you, for one, because I feel like this was, you've really been working very hard over the last couple of years to like get your branding together and like to refine your web presence.
Yeah.
And you were like, I want to get into licensing.
Yeah.
And
here
we go.
Yeah. I'm I'm fortunate and I'm really happy. I mean, it's been a journey for sure. Like you said, like, if I think back to, 2018, 2017, doing the chair sketches.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the dream, was to kind of work my way up here.
Yeah.
And it's nice to just kind of see that progression, I think, and it's also cool that we've, kind of recorded the progression on the podcast too.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it, to me, and this might seem off topic, but to me, it gets to this thing where that I got frustrated with when there were all of these like Instagram industrial design debates about like we're lying about the process and we're showing things that don't do, that are not a part of the process. Right. Like we're just making hot sketches to make hot sketches. And I don't know that I ever made this point publicly, and maybe I did on the podcast, but I think like what people were missing in that whole thing was like, you're focusing on like that specific output and not looking at the dedication to the craft.
Yeah.
Like what you should be paying attention to is the fact that like people like you, and there's other people on Instagram, like kept going and kept chipping away at it.
Right.
Like to be posting and to be like showing your work, and I mean, opening yourself up to criticism as well, but like to keep posting and keep progressing, like that's what people should have been paying attention to, is like that's what you should be emulating.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what somebody is specifically doing, right? But that they are doing something, you know, 100%. And dedicating themselves to it. That's awesome.
And we named it the Super Chair.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of debate around the name, actually.
I don't know if this is in just in my mind, or like I don't know if we had this conversation, but the fact that they showed it in red, like the first on their socials, they showed it in red as the Super Chair, and what I immediately associate it with is the Superman cape.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think there was some play on the Superman cape idea, probably more from their side than what I was envisioning. I think I came up with a bunch of names, and we chatted about it. They actually wanted to do a name that didn't exist already. The thing about naming, so I actually think naming designs is pretty important, because it's this opportunity to connect the idea of the design with the object. And the names I came up with, and often come up with, kind of relate to the idea of the design, like Pixelite or whatever. And so I had to come up with a bunch of names for the Super Chair. I think I even asked, like Instagram to come up with names and stuff. A lot of them were like Flow and like, Sine Wave and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just thinking of a red chair called Flow, and it's like, that's not
that's no good. Yeah, not good. And they wanted to have a name that they could pretty much own that doesn't exist. Because the thing about naming chairs as well, or naming really any type of design, is there's so much that has been done that the odds of you coming up with something that is original is, slim to none. I'm sure Flow Chair already exists, So,
yeah.
They actually proposed Super Chair, and of course when they said it, I laughed because it's such a funny thing to name a chair.
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, I was like, it does feel very almost like out of this world. Very kind of futuristic. It's designed, for the future, with the future. It is this kind of chair that's been, superficial is not not like, I feel like superficial has like a negative connotation, but the chair does have this like artificial, I don't know, like it's like it lives in the future, you know? So the super chair just grew on me and it felt like it fit.
Yeah.
And then I guess there is that kind of connection to Superman's cape where it's flowing.
Which is like an optimistic, idealistic view of the future.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of connections there that really felt like, yeah, you know, this is the right idea. And plus it's just a fun, it makes people smile, you know, when you say super chair. Because some people are like, that's hilarious, but it's also like fitting, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember when you were telling me the name options and that one did like stick out.
Yeah.
It's like, that's, cause it feels right. Like it's, and the fact that it makes people smirk is just like, that's even better. I feel like.
Yeah. So props to the team for that one.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it. So they just proposed it and I said, yeah, that's it. Yeah. And, you know, big thank you to everyone there at Damiano Latini and Damiano himself and engineering team. And of course, Antonio for, you know, really shepherding the project and directing the whole, you know, development. And excited to see it. I'm sure. By the time this is posted, you'll probably see some more photos of it.
It's funny. I don't think I told you this, but at like Peloton in my last like few months there, we started this like inspiration thing on the team where people would bring in an image to put up.
Okay.
And one of the industrial designers, Perry Burke, super talented designer.
Oh yeah, no, Perry.
She brought in an image of the VR, like you making the chair in VR to put it up. And I think she also might have brought in the image of the Bella Hadid, like the spray on dress.
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah.
And you know, just kind of, if I remember correctly, just like talking about, just these sort of like future facing visions of like how to create and develop.
I think it is almost a good segue into our next segment because James, it's been 2 or 3 months since we last talked about AI. You know, AI is like dog years. 1 month in AI human years is 1 year in AI years.
Oh my god. It's
I thought this was an interesting post that I saw maybe last month. I don't know if you saw it or not. I posted on Twitter.
I did see this.
There was this artist, and this actually kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier, but there was this artist that was posting some amazing sketches, some amazing paintings on Twitter and Instagram. And come to find out, he got caught using AI and photoshopping it onto his sketchbooks that he had taken a photo of. And, you know, he got just ripped apart, as people do on Twitter. But I thought it was really interesting because part of me was like, first of all, why, you know, if you're like, I don't know his whole thing. I think he actually did steal someone else's work, not even just AI, but I think a majority of it was AI. And then they realized like, oh, there was another like artist work that he was stealing from. But anyways, the point is like, why not pivot and say, fooled you guys. I'm actually Duchamp, and you know, I'm tricking you, right?
Right.
Make it a performance art, right? Like,
that
would have been the correct artist thing to do, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a big like performance art Duchamp guy. I feel like that would have been an interesting way to take it, kind of a meta way to take it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it was interesting because it reminded me a lot of what we were talking about earlier, which was this idea that, you know, I think on Instagram, sometimes designers would either sketch digitally over a photo
Yeah.
of their sketchbook, or vice versa, where they would use like, fake or like pencil sketches on a digital canvas. There's like
Or
this,
they would take
there's like
like
this play on.
They would take a digital sketch and like put it into onto a sketchbook page.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. I feel like Spencer Nugent posted about it and caught a lot of flack for like calling people out specifically for doing this. And I remember at the time feeling like, is this really worth getting, worked up about? Because either way, these people were like, maybe they were being slightly disingenuous about like how this thing was actually done.
Right.
But they were still making something. Like they were still putting in effort to make something. And maybe it's bad to deceive somebody into thinking like, oh, did they really draw those lines?
Right.
Like lines that were probably like smoothed out by a program like Procreate or something.
Yeah.
But this, on the other hand, I feel like you posted something a while ago where you took a rendering of a yield chair and you made it look like it was sketched with ballpoint pen.
Yeah, so this is like a whole thing now. Obviously, when I think I did that a few years ago before, AI was mainstream, and I was just using Photoshop filters.
Yeah, and you just like, you posted side by side, like, here's this rendering with the ballpoint and here's like an actual sketch.
Right. And I think he even like tested to see which one got more likes. I can't remember which one did, but they were close. I think what's interesting is as AI progresses and takes up the majority of the design process, we're still kind of searching for how do we tell the process and make it our own. And I think that's kind of what this artist was kind of playing with.
That's interesting.
Whether he was doing it intentionally or not. It seems like he was just doing it to deceive people. I wish he had some more of a theory behind it, but
yeah.
It starts to get me to think about, the Instagram sketches and even my work, because when I do my VR sketches, that's not how I actually design in VR. Mm-hmm. When I do the sketches, I pretty much go back and recreate what I've designed. When I'm designing in VR, it's 5 hours of VR work, and I make 100 chairs, 100 variations.
That's the like performance element.
And so I think what's going to happen is with AI taking up the actual work, it's going to be the performance, right? It's going to be going back to the story, like we've talked about a million times. It's like, how do you create that story now that AI is kind of filling in all the process? I think we got to accept the performance of it now. Like, I think this is kind of silly, but it's also, the artist, putting AI into their sketchbook is kind of silly, but it's also like, I think it's kind of like where we're going to go.
Yeah.
Like whether you like it or not, it's like we are going to be kind of
strap yourselves in, kids.
Yeah. We are going to be kind of living in this, what is real, what is fake.
Yeah.
Does it really matter if it's really just telling the story of the idea?
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, well, it kind of makes me think about how how you lead a client through a project. Like if you're working with a client and you're working through the development phases of something, like sometimes you might be at an early phase and you're able to show like a hot render of something that you're doing, but like, is it the right time to do that? Because you're leading somebody from like not having anything designed to having the finished final thing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't want to deceive the client into thinking that it's finished before it really is. Because like I could have a rendering of something in a week that could seem finished, but actually there's still a lot more to figure out and design.
Yeah.
And so like in the case of industrial design, you may not want to like take it to that level before you've like really figured out everything else, because you don't want them to be like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's start, cutting steel.
Which is kind of like what happened with the super chair. I think that, that's an interesting thought as well, which, especially with the super chair, I've thought about a little bit more deeply, is like how, I don't know the right word, flippant in my posting should I be? I don't know if that's the right word or not, but how like careless should I be in terms of posting my designs online? Because I'm getting to the stage now where I'm licensing. People see my work, they want to license it. I want to license my work. Like, in posting something online is a way to say, hey, this is available. Come and take it.
Right.
And if I have not, 100% thought through every detail of it, and it gets, licensed, and it gets changed, like that's a, like you said, like, is that the right approach? I think it worked out great with the super chair, but with other ideas, like maybe I need to be more diligent. But then also, I mean, I debate this all the time.
Yeah.
With a few of my design friends, but it's like, and you too, but it's like, posting work online is so great. Like, it gets your name out there, right? Like I wouldn't have been there doing the super chair without that.
Yeah.
So there's this push and pull, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought this AI fiasco with this artist was interesting. And it just got me thinking a lot about the performance of design and how it's going to become the only thing we have left, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, this, I brought up that comparison to like when Spencer Nugent was calling people out. And I think, to me, like what this person was doing seems a bit more nefarious.
Right.
Than I felt like what those people were doing was like kind of innocent, but it was for like attention and likes and everything. And yeah, maybe they were being slightly disingenuous, but I also feel like, there's like a spirit of like experimenting with storytelling on Instagram that I like don't want to interfere with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I do think I've been having conversations and talking about this the last couple of days. I just like, it is, and I think you posted about something about this on Twitter, or like, I'm going to connect these two things, which is like, you were basically like, from here on out, don't believe what you see online, basically. But like, I think that I think it's a cool thing is like real life, like seeing something in real life, seeing somebody make something in real life, seeing like that is going to become a huge commodity to like be like have the live experience of seeing, like eating something, being with somebody, like seeing art performed live. Like I feel like that's maybe it's
become more valuable because
the
digital is so,
because like at this point everything that you see online could be AI generated. And maybe there's a time at which like the real and the generated becomes like so blurred that like, and people are like fine with it, Matrix style.
Right.
But I think for right now, I think people are going to simultaneously be interested in AI, but also like really value, especially coming out of the pandemic. My friend Chris Carpenter and I were talking about this last night, especially coming out of the pandemic. He pointed out people were just like craving real life.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel like there's going to be movements and counter movements, and it's I don't know, it's really interesting.
What have you been up to with AI? You said you've been playing with Chat GPT.
Yeah.
I think last episode we left off with GPT-3.
Okay, so now we're at like GPT-5, right?
4.
I thought, really?
We're at 4 right now.
Okay.
At least, publicly
Yeah,
accessible.
yeah. I've got 5. No, I don't
We-
have. I don't have special access or anything.
I feel like we have reached a tipping point where it almost feels. What's the saying where it's like first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they, you know that saying? Then I think then you get statues built of you or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrase, but it feels like last year and even the beginning of this year we were in the laughing stage. Like,
oh yeah,
Midjourney's cute, it's fun,
yeah,
but it's making people with 10 fingers on one hand,
right.
And then within the last couple of months since we recorded, we flipped over to the oh crap, this is a serious thing.
Yeah,
and there's been much more pushback on it now, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're at GPT-4 now, and you've been playing with it.
I've been playing with it like on a daily basis, not just playing with it, but using it
as an actual tool.
As a tool.
Yeah.
Like, and what I've been using it for is like, for instance, my dad and my sister, who I work with, were asking me to like outline my design process, to like formalize it, put it. And so like, I went to ChatGPT and I was like stream of consciousness, just writing and just like, here's my process. And then I was like, make this into an outline.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT made it into an outline. And like, it took some tweaking.
Right. You got to go back in and edit it. Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, like, it's so much fun because it's like having an assistant, like a personal assistant who you can, like, now I understand why people have assistants and things. Like, of course it makes sense, but in thinking of it, like having somebody there to draft up something, like it's always much better and easier to work on something when you're not the one who has to make the first mark on the page.
Right.
Like, so
when you already have a chunk of stuff, you can go in and kind of tweak it.
Yeah. And so like, it really does feel like, I mean, yeah, I'm like a director of design now, and now I'm like curating content using things like ChatGPT to then tweak and make it fit with like the style and whatever that I'm trying to get to. I used it. What else did I use it for? I use it all the time for many different reasons. But that was like really, really helpful, because otherwise that task could have taken me a very, very long time.
Right.
And instead it was like a joy to work that out.
Right. It's magic.
Yeah. And I even like asked it to like, I was like, I want to write an introduction to this design process, and I want it to reflect a company that's family owned, like small, optimistic, like, and so it like wrote me in like an intro, and I was like, okay, well now I can tweak this a little bit, but that's great. And then recently I was asked by the head of marketing to write a blurb about myself and my experience.
Yeah.
And I like, as a starting point, I took my LinkedIn and I just like copied and pasted it, and I said, write a 5-sentence paragraph about my experience.
Did the podcast make it in or no?
I don't know that it did. I think actually it would be better to go to my resume than to go to my LinkedIn profile. But it was just like, I don't know. It's just, it's so much fun.
You know what it kind of reminds me of is, I haven't felt this way in a while, but every once in a while there's that impactful new invention or technology that comes out, and there's that one product that bridges the gap between the technology and the actual consumer and use of it, right? Obviously the first one was the iPhone, or not the first one, but the iPhone is one of the biggest recent ones. VR was like this, my first time trying VR. And then, ChatGPT, specifically, I think this most recent one, has felt like that, where it's like, oh, this is actually really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's actually doing great work and really helpful.
Well, and it makes Google seem totally overwhelming and not useful at all. Yeah. I mean, of course, it is still useful, but it's like to be able to have a conversation with the AI rather than to be like, whatever, just like trying to scroll through and find the right information.
Yeah. The thing that I've actually been using it for is writing code. And specifically because
I'm curious about this.
Yeah. So, I've obviously been, still doing Web3 stuff and posting my work, minting my work. The recent project I did a concept design called the Spring Collection, which is this outdoor metal furniture. It has like a little curly Q. Mm-hmm. It's really simple, but I think the curly Q gives a nice element to the whole design and actually has a function of making the backrest flexible. Yeah. And I've wanted to do this for a while. I thought this was a great idea, essentially, since NFTs kind of became popular, was I wanted to mint every single Gravity Sketch variation, because my Gravity Sketch scenes is literally, hundreds of chairs, each with like a little tweak, right, to get to the final design. And I thought it'd be cool to have each individual chair be a collectible NFT. You think about if you collected an original Eames sketch or something, right? And I'm sure they did 100 sketches before they got to the, the molded plywood chair or whatever chair. Yeah. And they're all kind of unique. But since, I live in the future, there's no physical piece of paper. It's all in the virtual world, so it feels like the right medium to mint them. And I think doing that type of a project is a bit more of a technical feat, right? You got to know how to upload each individual chair to sites like IPFS, and there's a bunch of jargon there and a bunch of blockchain stuff that is a bit daunting for someone who doesn't know how to code. Yeah. But I pulled up ChatGPT and I was able to kind of navigate it, and it'll say stuff like, all right, you need to build this JavaScript file, or not even JavaScript, what's Python scripting file. And I'm like, all right, I don't know how to do that. I don't even know what Python is. And it's like, okay, take me a step back. How do I download a Python scripting software or whatever? I don't even know if that's the right way to phrase it. Right. And I just follow the steps and I completed the project. Like, it actually worked. And the crazy part is that coding has always been this kind of magic skill, right? Like you have to, it's like it almost feels like if you landed in a different country and could speak the language without ever having to put in the time to learn it. Yeah. That's how it feels like being able to code now. And I was also dabbling around with code art, just saying like, hey, what would happen if I made a bunch of boxes that all moved around, or like made a bunch of lines that looked cool, and building these like visual, artistic, abstract code things, just for fun, like just to see what it can do. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. And the, I've also used it for like writing emails and stuff, at least to get a baseline, like you said. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I think it's interesting too, because I've started to listen to a lot of the, I think we're in AI summer was what they're calling it. Like everyone's
I
obsessed
thought it
with
was
AI.
monoblock summer.
Well, monoblock summer for me, baby. Oh yeah. And it's interesting to see kind of the beginnings of, I don't know, the fear of AI. I'm not sure how you feel about that or if you really researched into it much.
I know, smart people that have expressed the like fear of AI, and I just like, I kind of feel like it's all beyond me, and it's, I just don't know if at this point, if just like Pandora's box has been open and it's just like, we're like, I mean, at any time in history, we're all at the mercy of things bigger than ourselves. And maybe that sounds like nihilistic, but to me, that's like, I don't know if freeing is the right word, but it's just kind of like, things are going to happen as they happen. And
you can't control it, right?
I cannot throw my body in front of the AI train. Like, but I mean, I have seen things like where tech leaders are like saying, hey, we need to like slow this down,
right,
and really understand it. And I mean, I guess I caught some of the interview with Sam Altman, is that him?
Did you listen to like a Lex Friedman?
I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I listened to like clips of it and him just talking about like, we're doing this. There's a reason why we're doing all of this out in the open.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean, there's the joke there because I think they've been pretty closed off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though they're called OpenAI, because they haven't like open sourced that code or anything.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I mean, there's a whole like.
You probably know more than I do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, originally OpenAI was founded with the intention. I think Elon helped found it with a few people, and it was the idea was to build AI out in the open so that it doesn't kind of run away,
right,
without everyone else kind of knowing about it.
But then it was bought by Microsoft, right? Or
yeah, I don't know the exact scenario. They have a weird, I think they have a weird business setup. I think there's some I think it was founded as a nonprofit, and then the nonprofit bought a subsidiary that was a for-profit, and a bunch of tax stuff, bunch of venture capital, all that kind of stuff going in there. I do find it fascinating though, because I think about a lot of the impactful technology, and with every new technology, there's going to be pushback. It's just how these things work. People don't like change. But this one does seem interesting because the pushback is coming from, people like Elon and some other really prominent, very intelligent
technologists,
people that understand what's going on, right? It's not like someone who's like afraid of, it's not like your mom afraid of like Facebook, in 2003 or whatever. It's like these people understand AI and they're the ones that are afraid of it.
Right.
And I don't know how much of that is kind of a signal of like, oh, I'm really smart, I should be afraid of it, or if there's an actual danger there. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely going to be like, plenty of, like I said, I'm just under the assumption now, whatever you see online should just be taken as AI generated. If you see anything, it should just be AI generated until proven real. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you could obviously do with that. Very, very bad things. But yeah, I think I'm like you. Like, you can't stop it. You just have to, you use the technology to the best of what you can use it for. And
and I think just like continuing to talk about it and knowing, like, saying things like, don't believe everything you see, like, especially now. Like, even just saying things like that, I think is like a good service to the public of like, hey, like, we can't stop this, but like we should be aware of it and know that it's there and like know what it's capable of and just like understand it to that level. But
Yeah, I saw this thing the other day. This is another like PSA. Scammers are using your voice now to call up your family and be like, "Hey,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I'm stuck. My car broke down. Can you send me money?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I sent that to
Whoa.
my dad because I was like, my voice is on the internet, very, very much so.
Yeah.
So if you ever call me, ask me a personal question. So,
Right.
you know, it's me. Or if
Right.
I ever call you in distress.
Yeah, I don't know if your parents ever did this for you, but like my parents had like there was a word that like if somebody came to me as a kid and was like, James, you need to come with me, your parents are
Right.
like, you know, whatever, there was like a word that they gave me
Oh.
to be like,
Do you know the secret word?
yeah, like you have to say this word or else I'm not coming with you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
That's a smart
my
idea.
my grandmother got called when I was in college by a scammer who was pretending to be me.
Oh, wow.
And she thought it was me. I don't know how this person sounded on the phone, but she I got a call from my mom and she was like, you know, your grandmother, she messaged me and she said, "Is James in Panama right now?"
Oh, my God. That's quite a stretch. I mean, if you got the voice down, do a little research and figure out where you're going to school, you know?
Yeah, be a little bit more realistic.
Oh, man.
But nothing against Panama. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, but that is, I didn't even think about that because you did do those AI bots of our voices.
Yeah. And what's crazy to think about is like we did that, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And it was funny.
Yeah.
It was like I was saying, it was the moment of like, oh, we're laughing at it.
Right.
Like it's kind of fun. We're laughing at it. And now, I mean, we've all heard a bunch of I feel like the TikToks or the reels I see all the time is like, you know, Obama and Trump playing Minecraft together. Have you seen those videos?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta
I
check
mean,
that out.
you know, I'm deep into the meme game,
Yeah,
so it's so hilarious to watch those like deep fakes of like prominent people playing Minecraft.
It's funny because when you played the voices of like our voices, I remember you thinking that your voice was really terrible and off and like the way that you were talking through AI. And then I felt the same thing about my voice, but we didn't feel that about each other's. Like
Right.
I didn't think that of yours. You didn't think that of mine, but I was like, I can tell.
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't like that bad for you listening to my AI voice.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like you only recognize the flaws in your own voice because you hear it the most,
yeah.
obviously. Huh.
So yeah, man.
I feel like there's probably more stuff about AI that we could talk about.
Dude, we've got episodes on episodes where we you know, this is just becoming the AI podcast. But no, I'm happy that like more recently we have very like concrete physical news. We should just call it like, I don't know what we should like. We got AI news and we've got physical like product news that, you know, you've got a chair made.
Yeah.
You know, that's awesome. Because like, doesn't that at the end of the day, like the feeling of having a chair made, steel cut, like isn't that far more fulfilling than like
100%.
a crispy render?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think maybe to like ping it back to the AI thing with the, you know, is AI going to take over the world and kill us all? The part, the part of me is skeptical of that is the fact that we still live in a physical world.
Right.
I mean, you could certainly mess up the digital world and the digital world can certainly affect the physical world. But at a certain point, you know, we all have 3D printers. They all break down. Try to imagine an AI trying to fix your 3D printer. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least for now, we'll keep that. We'll keep that as a optimistic point for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, good episode.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you. And
yeah, you too.
maybe we'll do a podcast when I get back from Milan, and
That'd be awesome.
we'll have a New York Design Week. You're probably going to come up for that, right?
I hope so. When is that?
May.
The whole month of May?
No,
Design
it's
Week?
like mid May, end of May.
Okay. I'll see if I can swing that. We're going to be like probably
moving
in
for sure.
around that time, but yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Good ep. As always, I'm Nick.
I'm James.
Peace.
Later.